Love and Monsters, a 2020 adventure apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic fiction movie that is so scarily relevant for the year in which it was released. I really like post-apocalyptic movies, I like apocalyptic movies, and I like monsters, so this kind of fit in quite snugly with my delights. As much as I despise Rotten Tomatoes, you can see the similarity of the tastes and the ratings based on the audience score, if we can even trust that that's the real audience score. But based on the review of real people, I would say, yeah, this movie pretty much deserves that score. It was a really fun adventure movie, and what it put me in mind of was, okay, get this, Zombieland meets How to Train Your Dragon. I don't know what, it's the weirdest thing because there are instances throughout the movie where I'm like, this is How to Train Your Dragon. Just like when they interact with certain monsters or certain monsters are heard of, or they know that a monster's following them, this guy has a little book just like the How to Train Your Dragon book, where he, basically a realistic version of Hiccup, is jotting down all of the monsters and filling in their weaknesses. For example, one of the monsters has a weakness to a dog. And it's so silly because there's so much more to these monsters, but that's just the basic idea based on the interaction that the person has had with the monsters. And Joel decides to do this himself so that he can help other people. And near the end of the movie, you see that he has finished the entire book and he's starting on another one. And in this movie, we have not seen every monster there is to see. I do like the idea of insects and smaller animals being mutated to astronomical sizes, but they're not like too astronomical like Godzilla size. You'll have an ant that mutates and is suddenly the size of like 6 horses stacked on top of each other. They even mention a lot of monsters that we never get to see, because it's not even mostly about the monsters, this movie. It's mostly about Dylan O'Brien's character, Joel. So what's it about? Well, I find it so interesting because it is apocalyptic in that an asteroid is heading for the Earth, and so people, in an attempt to save themselves by sending up nukes to blast the asteroid, consequently causes the radiation from those bombs to rain back down on the planet and mutate animal life. They don't go into the whole scientific side of it because it is pseudoscience, it's fiction, so sometimes it's best to just leave things at a superficial level, because if you try to explain it or go too deep into explaining it, people are going to call you on it and be like, that doesn't make any sense. When you leave it superficial, you leave it at, look, it just happened. We don't even know why. But that's what causes a lot of the animals, specifically the smaller animals, to mutate. I don't know if every single one of them got mutated. I think a lot of creatures died, but just some of them decided to mutate, like you have giant frogs, giant snails, and these creatures are like 1,000 times more scary than they were when they were little. I mean, you've seen a praying mantis, which is my favorite insect, and how it will just chop the head off of something or just straight up start eating it from its face before the animal's even dead. Can you imagine if a praying mantis was mutated to like Godzilla proportions? I feel like even though there's not a book or comic about this, Love and Monsters can start a new series where it kind of is like How to Train Your Dragon, because there are cases where not all the monsters are bad. Some of them, as a matter of fact, a lot of them are pretty intelligent, and you have to figure if they're going to mutate to be this mega size, something that is unnatural for them, of course everything else is going to get bigger and larger animals are more complex. I like Merle, Merle from Walking Dead. What's his name from the Guardians of the Galaxy? The blue guy with the whistle and the arrow. How did I forget his name? Wanda? Wait, hold on. I'm gonna get it. It's there. Yondu, right? I'm pretty sure it's Yondu. Yeah, it's Yondu. But yeah, that guy, I really like him. When I first saw him in The Walking Dead, I was like, I love this character, because even though he played a villain, he wasn't really a villain. You could understand like why he did what he did, and his relationship with Daryl was just so beautiful. He's a great actor. So seeing him in everything else after that, I was really excited. But you see in the trailer that Joel meets him along the way with this little girl, and they become an interesting pair. It feels very wholesome. The dog, named Boy, I believe he's an Australian sheepdog. I know there's another name for them, but I can't remember what it is. But that dog was so adorable. And when he barks, I like that Joel acknowledges that they could die if he keeps doing that. I love how the dog will hear a monster. He doesn't even let Joel know. He's just like, I'm out. And then you look around, the dog's gone. You're like, yo, buddy, where are you going? I like that Boy is his own character, kind of like Sam was in I Am Legend. I really like Joel's character, but having the dog there just made me so much more invested, because I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to him. And there was one scene where the poor puppy, he was so scared, and I was starting to cry. I already started crying because I was like, no, are they going to? Because some movies will surprise you and get really dark. Like, oh, it's a wholesome family movie. Slice the dog in half. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ. I was losing it. And my poor partner had the mouth house. He was like, okay, I'm gonna get ready to pause this, so in case something happens, you don't see it, because I lose my shit when I see something happen to it. I don't know what it is. Like, it just, maybe it hits hard at home because I have my own puppies. So yeah, your girl's really sensitive when it comes to that. I'll watch a movie and give it credit when it kills animals, because that's very brave, because most people won't. And it's more realistic, because in those situations, a lot of animals died. A lot of puppies lost their life in that apocalypse. But just seeing it happen and seeing the puppy be scared and hearing him cry. That was the most tense moment in the entire freaking movie. But I could also relate so much to Joel, because he had a problem that he had to get over. He suffered loss, he had a problem that he had to get over, and he was the only one in his bunker who didn't have someone. And at the end of the world, someone like him would get pretty lonely, especially when you see everybody else is hooked up with someone and you're the only person who has no one, aside from like one other old person. And here's this girl, that your girlfriend that you were in love with, and she's at another colony 85 miles away, and he's like, you know what? There's something about Pununu that whenever you're in a situation that could potentially kill you, you will risk your life to make sure that you get it. Because let's face it, that's exactly what happened. And it was so sad, because you found out later on in the movie that they actually haven't seen each other in 7 years. And I'm like, uh-oh, that girl's done bashed up someone else. But they're talking on the radio, and I guess she never said anything to him, because I don't blame her. That was basically a familiar person.
I've been scanning for Aimee the entire time.
The entire time she's moved on with her life. I already knew she moved on. 7 years is a very long time. Not to mention, nobody was going on the surface except for runs, and that was highly dangerous. So to travel 85 miles on foot, because everything's overgrown, you can't use cars anymore, pretty sure all the gas is expired, it's just not realistic. Everybody's living underground or living in tucked away places because of these creatures. I'm sure you would be too if you had cockroaches the size of houses flipsy-doo-hawing around the countryside. You know, those roaches are probably thinking, oh wow, look at you guys. Remember when you taunted me with the raid? Not to mention spiders, which we have not seen in this movie, so anybody who's arachnophobic, you don't have to worry about that, because you do not see spiders. Yeah, Joel treks across 85 miles one way and then does it a second time. And I like that they kept this movie real, because I was saying to myself, they better not Adam Sandler this up. They better not have her like, I was so in love with you and I knew you could do it, and I'm gonna drop everything and fall in love with you all over again, yay! And I'm like, no, please don't let that be the case, because that is not realistic. That would not happen. And surely enough, I was waiting for it, and they were holding out until you're thinking, wow, did they really? But no, they didn't. She does say later on, his girlfriend, that, yeah, I didn't actually expect you to come here. It's been 7 years. I lost someone. I was in a relationship. My kununu has a little bit more stretched than you remember, because, you know, I've been getting it in. I wasn't holding it down and close and tight for you. That's just not realistic. It's 7 freaking years. What are you gonna do? It's the apocalypse. So poor Joel, I felt really bad for him, and he even admitted that, wow, this was really stupid. And when he met Mavis, the robot, I like that too, because she even said, yeah, this is very romantic. Or this may happen. She may not care at all. All Yondu is like, are you sure she's worth it, man? And Yondu knew. I think he knew that, yeah, this kid's stupid. He's gonna get there, and that girl's gonna be smashing at least one other person. Honestly, Joel probably would have been too if he had someone, and he didn't. If there was an extra girl there, you bet your ass he wouldn't be talking on the phone with Aimee every single time. It's not the phone, it's the radio, but you know what I mean. There were some cliche moments that were very annoying, like the really hot guy that comes in, and I'm like, are they gonna make him a bad guy? Because that's so convenient. Like, oh, guy who's a potential competition. Like, nobody else at that camp was competition. I actually looked at it, like, because that's something that humans usually do. We see who is apt as a sexual partner or mate, and as she was combing through the camp and Aimee was giving him the tour, he was walking through to find her, I could list at least 3 other people there that would be potential serious competitors for Aimee. You had some older guys that were not that old, you know. When you don't have a lot of pickings in the post-apocalyptic era, trust me, girls are not gonna be as picky as you think that they are now, and they probably are now because there's just too many people. But put them in a situation where there's only like 3 guys, and one's old, and one's fat, and one's like so skinny that when he turns sideways, he disappears. Oh, she's gonna look at all of them and be like, which flavor should I have today? Trust me, it's not gonna matter whether or not you're rich or whether or not you look like a hunk, because all she's gonna be seeing is dick, and there's not a lot of it, and there's other females, so let me get in. Last Man on Earth did that so well. That's a TV show that they canceled for no freaking reason. I'm very upset about that. We're not gonna talk about that. So understandably, as I would also feel, Joel starts to miss his old colony, because there's nothing here for him anymore. Aimee doesn't love him anymore. It's not what he thought it was. But the good news is, she provided that motivation or incentive for him to want to get out there and learn how to survive. And in so doing, him making that move and being brave enough to fight for something that he believed in allowed him to meet those people who saved him and taught taught him how to survive and taught him the skills he would need to teach other people. Slayed a few monsters and everything. And those people, Yondu and the little girl, were living on the surface and they were totally fine. Yondu's character, I know I'm calling him Yondu, but you know who he is. He taught Joel exactly what he needed to know, and Joel taught himself the rest. He got over his freezing problem, and now that he's killed his first monster, he's like, you know what, this isn't so bad at all. Yeah, I almost died a few times, even on the way back. I like when they show him on the way back to his colony to save them, because now he's useful, and now he's not afraid anymore. Well, he's still afraid, but now he's braver. I like that they show him still running for his life, him and Boy, because there are still things chasing them. Of course, the one gripe is I never really feel like Joel's in danger. I think it's more of a fun theme park type experience. The only person that I really even worried about was the dog, because that's not the main character per se. It's up in the air, and I'm like, they're not gonna kill the dog. It's a family-friendly movie. And then that thing starts curling in on it, and Joel is just sitting there for longer than you should sit when you realize that your puppy's in danger. And he's just having a flashback at that very moment when the thing's about to eat the dog. And I'm like, are you serious, bro? And I'm crying, and I'm like, the puppy, the puppy, the puppy. And Jesus Christ, that thing stressed me out. But even though I never really feel like he's in real danger per se, things still happen to him. And I do like that they take that liberty with this movie in making him a real person that you can identify with, that you can like. He's very likable. You may not relate to him 100%, but he's very likable. He's basically Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, as I said before. Literally, I was watching it, and I'm like, he has a book. It's all about these monsters. He has to figure out how to deal with each of them, and he's kicking against the prick doing something that nobody else is doing. And he was a runt and this scrawny character that everyone thought was useless. That's Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon. And those monsters out there, they're mutated insects, are the dragons. It made me so happy when he was on the comm and he told the colony what was happening. And he's like, guys, I killed a monster. They're like, oh my God, Joel, tell us more. And they didn't even think about themselves until he asked them what's going on. And then they're like, yeah, we don't know if we're gonna hold up here much longer. And then he realized he had to go back. 85 miles back, walking. Let that sink in. You know how long it is to drive 85 miles? I think if you're going at like 60 miles per hour, like straight through, no stops, it would be about an hour and 40 to 2 hours. And the trip in the movie said it takes 7 days about if you just keep going with minimal stops. So you really experience the sensation of how much Joel has grown from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie. I also wanted to mention Mavis the robot. What I find really interesting about this movie is it presents things that you don't really see in other apocalyptic movies. For example, Mavis was basically a revolutionary invention, a robot that was basically an AI that could talk to you and do things for you. But before it could even take off, the asteroid came in and this whole thing happened. You would imagine that it would be an AI post-apocalyptic event where the robots survive the humans or now they're bad or something. But no, it's a completely different story where robots like this with amazing AI were about to be launched or take the world by storm, and now they're just lying all over the place, a few of them, some of them not even working because this whole thing happened. And I like the irony of it because it's the same thing as the beginning of the movie, why this happened. An asteroid was gonna kill everyone, but people stopped the asteroid, but killed themselves with the radiation from the nukes that they launched. And then the insects grew so freaking big they started eating off everyone and killing all of civilization. I think the radiation also killed certain people, and I'm thinking, did they mutate humans? But he did gloss over that. I just don't remember exactly what the reason was why you don't see more humans. But it's a refreshing take to a concept that's been done and rinsed and repeated for so long. What else can I say? I love the end of the movie too, because it leaves kind of an open ending because the guy doesn't really get the girl. And I like the message because it's not about that. It was about Joel becoming a man and discovering his own skill set and just becoming the best person that he never knew he could be. You see, a lot of these movies and TV shows kind of encourage girls and boys to think, oh, it's all about the other person, and that's cute. But I think this is especially great because they have a lot of female-oriented movies that are like this. But I think it's great to have one for the guys where you learn that, first of all, it is stupid to throw your life away for a female if you haven't seen her in a long time, because girls move on. They're humans just like everybody else. It's not realistic. You're being stupid. Learn to think. Secondhand, even though he didn't get the girl in the end, he still felt like a winner. He still felt like a hero. Yeah, he kissed the girl and everything, but they're not together. He didn't get what he thought he was gonna get that was gonna be the prize. The real prize is him being strong and inspiring all of the people around the world in the different colonies to come out to the surface. He is the catalyst to human civilization making a comeback. And that's more valuable than anything some random girl could ever give him. Being self-sufficient on his own. It's great. And I think that more young guys need to hear this. It's all about women. Women are great. You know, it's in your genes to want to protect them and want to procreate, and that's wonderful. But the most important thing is to take care of yourself, is to be self-sufficient without her, is to learn all the skills you can to be happy with who you are as a person before you can be with someone else. I'm gonna tell you something. At the end of the world, males and females are gonna be so primitive. They're gonna be looking at who has the best genes or just who's around. And if there's a little bit more to go around, they're gonna look at, okay, who's stronger? And if this person over here I'm being with them, but this this guy over here looks a little better and can protect me more. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna work. That you could see Aimee looked at him so much differently when she saw him slay a monster, or when she saw how he handled the monster and she saw him in action. And the thing is, like, he didn't even like, did you see that, Aimee? Did you see what I did? He never even talked about himself to that degree. He made it about her. He said, listen, it was so awesome to see you in action. And that showed her humility. And at the end, he's like, I gotta go and save my colony. He could have chose to stay there with her. And you know, there's a chance, since especially they found out that the guy he saw as competition was not a nice person and they defeated him, or the crab did, and he could have chosen to stay, but he didn't. He said, look, for old time's sake, because I love you, but I got man stuff I need to do. I have responsibilities, just like you do. And he left. And she looked at him with some new respect, which was, you could tell she wanted to be. That was impressive. That's a new type of Joel. That's the kind of Joel that she's like, wow, I can trust myself around that person, being that our lives are literally in each other's hands since we can die at any moment. Then what Joel narrated at the end, I think he was so on the nose, especially considering 2020, when he was like, yeah, don't settle. Go out there, guys. Don't live your lives in fear. We have to go back and take our world. We have to go back to what things were before and become great as a human race, greater than what the obstacles are. Let's go back to the surface. The world is so much bigger than our little bunkers. And there are people living on the surface, and I survived on the surface. Me, a dork, someone who has no survival skills and only just learned. And I made the trip 85 miles one way, 85 miles back. We can all do it together. And he encouraged people to get out there and made that step in reinvigorating the human race to take back what is theirs. I mean, technically it belongs to the insects too, and they're the victims because it was our technology and the radiation from stuff that we built that caused this, but you know, that's not the point. The point is, we can live out there. The monsters are doing it too. And I love this movie so much. I am rambling on. I know this video is very, very long, but there's just so much to talk about. I can't even do it all in one video. I'm gonna have to make a few videos about this because, you know, I feel like this is like the new Monster Hunter, because these creatures have now created different ecology, different environments. Now we're gonna expect that in the future, because this is like How to Train Your Dragon, and some of the insects or the big monster creatures are in fact tame and docile, that they're going to be using creatures like Mr. Snail in the movie to help them rebuild civilization. Can you imagine everyone has a real life freaking Pokemon that's the size of a goddamn Clydesdale horse when originally it was the size of a red bean? Then you're gonna have some people who are like, we're gonna pit our monsters against your monster to settle a dispute. My snail against your tree frog. And you see these big old animals that weigh 4,000 pounds each come out and start fighting, and then they have these abilities. And oh my god, guys, there's so many different ways they could go with this series. And I like that they left it open-ended, because he's going to the Snow Mountain, to the colony up there, and they have no idea. And the people that Joel met along the way are like, he hasn't even met the snow spiders. I'm like, are you serious? And the thing is, the movie could end just like that and they'll never have another one and it'll be totally fine. But there's also the potential of a brand new series. What? This is how you get things done, guys. This movie was great. I enjoyed it. People were saying, is it really worth $20? Honestly, I don't think at its core it's worth $20. It's worth a ticket for a single person, like 11 bucks. But if this is going to be the first addition to a series, a long-standing series, it probably would be worth $20. Yeah, I would buy it. I would buy it just to own it, you know, to see what happens. And the thing is, they allude to that because Volume 1 is the book that he did with all the monsters, and then at the end he gave the book and made another copy of the monsters and the illustrations that he's encountered. It's like Pokemon. Every time he encounters a new one, he puts the skills and stuff in there, how to interact with it, how to fight it, how to kill it. Is it tame? Is it bad? What's the aggression level? He puts all of that in the book. And then at the very end of the movie, you see him putting a Volume 2 in his bag, which is kind of like an insinuation that there's going to be a part 2 with more monsters you've never seen. Closing out, I also like what they did with the monsters, where they didn't show a lot of them, because for this very reason, if it's about the humans, people want to know more about the monsters, but we also have human characters that are the basis for the story. Just like Hiccup in How to Train Your Dragon. There was Hiccup's problem. He'd never fit in. He couldn't conform with Viking society. He totally reformed what the relationship between dragons and Vikings was like. And I think this is the same thing that's going to happen with this series, where now you don't have to worry about surviving as little pipsqueak humans and easy morsels for those big ol' aggressive monsters out there, because now there's a possibility that you can tame your own monsters to fight against those monsters. And you can build societies, and now instead of being afraid of insects, they can be a part of it. Isn't that wonderful, you guys? Oh my god, I love this movie. Like, just looking back at it, there's so much more I could talk about, but I've made this video long enough. I'm just really excited and passionate about this movie. I love it. It's wholesome. There's no politics in there. Like, I can't believe that's something I have to rejoice over. That never used to be a thing, but because it's so inundated in everything that we watch, it is so refreshing seeing movies be movies again. Like, just movies to escape. That's what it's supposed to be about, and that's what this movie provides you, I promise you. There's There's no, I'm a girl, so I'm powerful. There's none of that crap. It's just entertaining, wholesome, badass movie that everyone can watch. And when I mean everyone, it's family friendly, but it's not family friendly to the point where you feel like you're cringe and you're sacrificing your time to watch it with like your nieces and nephews and little sisters. It doesn't feel like that at all. It literally just feels like How to Train Your Dragon mixed with Zombieland, as I said in the beginning. Anyways, guys, what do you think about it? If you guys are still here, I told you there'd be spoilers midway through this, but what do you think about it? And those of you who didn't see it, is it something that you'd want to see? I would strongly encourage you to see it, especially if you like monsters, especially if you like stuff like Zombieland, How to Train Your Dragon, and you don't mind the characters being a little quirky. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. This has been Ultiori. You ask, we answer.